So I was out on a walk the other day, and I happened to glance down at this pile of trash on the side of the road, and something orange caught my eye. I thought to myself, no way that's what I think it is. But when I walked over, it was unmistakable. It appears that I found someone's failed DIY project. This is, or technically was, an Orange Crush Pix 12L. It's a little 12-watt practice amp that originally had a 6-inch speaker in it. It looks intact. Of course, there's no... It's pretty nasty. I've never owned an Orange amp, but I think this would make a great little desktop amp. So, let's see what I can do with it. It's a DIY project gone terribly bad. Let me get some power. I also thought, there's no way this is gonna work. No one would throw away a perfectly good working amp, right? Even if it looked like this? It powered on and it actually works just fine. I don't smell any smoke. The light's on. You can see that. I ran it from the headphones out to the input on my interface and used STL Tone's IR loader to emulate a cabinet. And it actually doesn't sound half bad. Alright, and now that I know that it works, I started taking it apart. At this point, I had an idea of what I wanted to do with it. It obviously needed a new shell, but I didn't have anything solid down yet. So, I saved all the corner pieces and the handle just in case I wanted to incorporate them later. Falling off. I understand why you do this. Pretty sure those are drywall screws. And handles on there. Man, that sucks. Like, I don't understand the thought process. I'm not against DIY. Not at all, but I guess you gotta start somewhere. This is how it was when I got it. But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to go like this. It is what it is. Let me clean it up. The inside's not too bad. It's bent. You can tell. It's bent. Looks a lot better. Cleaned up. I tried to get this bend out of it, but without a vise or something, I just couldn't do it. Well, at this point, I started taking measurements and scratching down some ideas of what this could look like. Once I was happy with something, I jumped into Fusion 360, and after a couple days of designing and wasting material with test prints, I ended up with this. Since this is going to be just a desktop amp, I decided to keep it as small as possible, so that it doesn't take up much space. Unfortunately, that means I won't be able to use any of the parts I salvaged, like the corner pieces or the handle, but I can save them for something else down the road. Who knows what else I might find in the trash. The only downside of this model is that my printer isn't big enough to print it out whole. If I had the SV06 Plus or something like the CR10, I'd probably be alright, but I knew I was going to have to split this model, and instead of doing it myself, I decided to just let Prusa Slicer do it for me. So I loaded it into the slicer and clicked the option to cut it. Then I chose to add connectors and started clicking on half of the model where I wanted the connectors to be placed. Then I clicked Confirm Connection. Next, I checked to flip Object A, which is the teal piece of the model, just so that the flat side of it will be on the bed. Then I clicked Perform Cut and Yes on the pop-up, and then I let it do its thing. After a few seconds, I clicked OK, and this is what I had. As you can see, it automatically made the alignment pins and holes for me, and now all I have to do is print it, which took about 15 hours. And here's everything printed. Couple days. When I tried to put the two pieces together, I realized I had to do a little filing on the alignment pins. And I also opened up the holes a little bit with a small drill bit. There we go. Perfect-ish. Once I was able to glue it all together, I started filing down those overhang strands that are on the, we'll just call them gills, as best that I could. At the time, I didn't know why the overhangs were so bad on the gills, but I eventually figured it out, so let me show you that. I'm not sure when my air duct broke, or where the piece is actually at, but most of the air coming from the fan was blowing out and away from the nozzle. I'm surprised the print wasn't worse than it was. Tough on the old wrist. Look at the mess I'm making here. just from that. I was going to try to save this piece here to have an original piece of the amp included, but it was just too big. However, I did design the bottom to be used with the original feet. So I used one screw to thread all the holes, and I put those feet on. After that, I had to drill new mounting holes to mount the actual amp to the shell. My original measurements were apparently off a little, and I've since fixed it on the model, but just remember that mine is bent, so if you download and print this model, you may need to make new holes as well. Then I found an old guitar jack I had lying around, and I wired it to the speaker output from the amp. The crimp terminals fit right on the jack, so I didn't have to cut and solder anything, which was nice. Then I just mounted it to the shell. And now it's time to put the whole amp in the shell and then screw it on.
I guess that's it.
And here we have it. All things considered, I can live with it, but there's a couple things I wish were a little different. First and foremost, I wish the metal on the amp wasn't bent, or that I had the means to unbend it, but you get what you pay for. I also wish I had a larger printer so I could print the shell whole and not have the seam running through the middle of it. It's not that bad, but I do notice it. And last but not least, obviously, I wish I had some orange filament.